I'm author Camille DeMaio, and I am continuing my series where I talk to people from across the book world, because as much as authors' names get to appear on the front of the book, there are so many other people who are vitally important to what happens with a book. So I'm very excited today to introduce you to my publicist, who has worked with me on the last 4 books, and to talk about that element of the book world, which I think is not often talked about, or I certainly didn't understand as a reader. So I'm introducing to you Anne-Marie Nieves of Get Read PR, and we're going to talk about what that means. So Anne-Marie, I'll turn it over to you for just kind of an introduction about what you do, and we'll go.
Okay. Okay, so yep, I run Get Read PR, and we are a full service PR firm. So basically what that means is our clients have a communication need, and there's a good chance that we're able to handle it, whether that's public relations, marketing, advertising, or advertising. And we even do social media. The biggest question though is often for PR and what that means for books and authors. And PR is about getting media exposure. And that media exposure means that you have the implied endorsement of that particular media outlet. And for some authors, that's, you know, it's something that's very valuable to them as an author, but valuable to their book as well. And media outlets are everything from your radio show or station to your local TV show to your big national shows like Good Morning America or The View. You also have your magazines, things like Vanity Fair and People, and you have your big .coms. I'm sure a lot of readers are, you know, they like Refinery 29 or Vulture or The Cut or any of those, or Scary Mommy. And in today's day and age, you know, PR has sort of expanded, and we look to other ways to gain exposure and to build a buzz for our clients. So, and right now, you know, we see this beautiful Bookstagram community. You see sort of bloggers have pivoted, and a lot of their reviews are on Instagram or Facebook or whatever their preferred social media platform. So we're looking to those people as both big influencers and nano influencers to help us get exposure for our clients.
You know, it's interesting as a reader, before I got into this, I think I very naively thought when I saw the Books and People magazine, which is where I got a lot of my book recommendations before the internet was really a big place for that, or just top 10 lists and things like that. I really thought it was a very organic thing that these editors were just reading 500 books and they picked 10 that they thought were great. So once I was on the side of it, I went, oh, there's a whole industry behind it that's promoting these things and trying to help them rise to the top. So they're a little more crafted than organic, I think. But it takes people like you really putting them there and making sure they're on the radar with that. Now you've done this for about 20 years. How have you seen that change over time?
It's changed so much, and sometimes I miss those old days, but you know, it was also very different. We had these gigantic budgets and billable hours and all that stuff that I just hated. I hated to do that. And so when I went out on my own, one of the reasons was because I wanted to be able to give my clients everything I could give them and not worry about how many hours it was taking me. And how many, I remember we used to think about our budgets, our monthly retainers, and how many hits. So hits are basically placements in media that you should get for that retainer amount. And I always hated it because it was the thought of, wow, well, what if you're really successful? What does that mean? Do you charge a client more because you're really successful at getting the media exposure? So it's changed a lot. I mean, we don't see the print like we used to. Years ago, the dailies were so influential and they meant so much to us in the PR world. And we could get our clients in, say, a bunch of Gannett papers. One client would be in a bunch of different Gannett papers hitting how many big cities. And I also used to subscribe to all these papers and magazines. And a lot of times I would get them for free too, because I was a publicist, and I read all the time. I knew who covered various beats. It seemed like we had these far more intimate relationships with the media. And we really believed in our magazines and our newspapers. And now to see sort of the death of so many newspapers is sad to me. It feels like the loss of community in some sort of way. And I don't know.
It is. And yet there's a whole new community. You know, I'm very active
Yes.
in the Bookstagram world and all that comes along with that, and Facebook and book salons. So I guess it changes, but we do have this desire for community. So I guess it just has to shift.
We have desire for community. In the Bookstagram community, the book community is really just a lovely community. Good people who are trying to do good things and just prop up authors, give them support, and talk about the love of reading. I mean, it just, I don't know, makes me smile.
As an author, I always consider myself a reader first, as I know that most authors do. So we get giddy about celebrating each other's books. And I didn't expect that getting into this world. I would have thought being a creative and artistic endeavor that you might get a lot of egos in it, but I rarely come across that. It's a wonderful, friendly community. On that personal note, and kind of speaking of community, I'll tell everybody how we met, which always makes me laugh. But we have a mutual friend in Andrea Katz, who runs Great Thoughts, Great Readers, primarily on Facebook, which is a wonderful example of a book community page on the internet now. And so Andrea knew that I was going to New York and said, you have to meet Anne Marie. But she didn't tell me who Anne Marie was. So I just thought she was somebody on Great Thoughts, Great Readers. And I said, sure, any friend of Andrea's is a friend of mine. So you and I met for lunch at Grand Central, and you were asking me very in-depth questions about my next book. And you pulled out a yellow legal pad, and you were taking notes and asking questions and making suggestions. And I thought, wow, you are really engaged in this. And it took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize that you were a publicist. And I think she wasn't setting me up. She just literally thought I already knew that. And I think she probably way overestimated my knowledge of the book world. So once I realized into this meeting that you were a publicist and Andrea was saying that you could really help my book, I went, oh, okay, now this framework is working. But I just loved you from the start. A, I knew we'd be friends, but B, I loved you as a publicist from the start. And what particularly was meaningful to me is how much you wanted to get to know me as a person. So most of your questions were about me, not even about my book. And so with my background in real estate and my background as a homeschooler, those are two things you really pulled out. And over having worked with 4 books, you've gotten me into publications on both of those fronts that are not necessarily book world publications, but homeschooling real estate. So you used other aspects of me to do that. So how is that? So I'll let you speak on that. That's just my personal story with it, but I feel like you really do put that personal touch in, which I appreciate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Everybody has their own story, right? And we need to listen to people's stories. It's really important. But my thought going into the books world, and I see myself as someone, I wasn't brought up in publishing houses. I worked for PR firms. And so sometimes we were just mandated with push this product, push this CEO. But one of my mentors early on in PR always told me there's more than one way to slice and dice a story. And I think because she was also a marketer, it really helped me to understand PR in a broader sense. But for authors are a brand, and your book is an asset. And I need to think about how I can bring readers in, how they can relate to you. What are they going to learn about you that they're going to love and say, hey, I want to try out this book. I want to read Camille DeMaio's book for this reason, because she has homeschooled 4 kids and she is awesome. Anyone who can do that, I need to read her work.
So you're really, that's, I don't know.
Is that me?
No,
Okay.
I just don't have things on.
I'm like, did I forget to turn something on?
Yeah, so I love that. So I think it really brings that personal connection into that. One of the things I get asked a lot now that a lot of aspiring authors or published authors who haven't used a publicist before, they ask me if it's worth it. And maybe you get that question too, or maybe they don't want to ask you that directly, but they ask me.
No, some do, yeah.
Because it's expensive, and we'll put it right out there that it's expensive, and it's because you have a media budget. You're personally spending a lot of money on the author's behalf, so it's not like it all goes in Anne-Marie's pocket. There's and you have worked with various budgets that I've had over the years and always done really well with them. But because you said it's a brand, I do find that. So I've 5 books in now, and I have noticed that each time, I can't tell you that one particular strategy worked, but you're building a foundation and you're building a footprint. And the more books you have out there with which you build that, you're just going to snowball into something exponential. So I just came out with my 5th book this June, and I feel more so than any of my other books, I felt that snowball. You did some media buys for me on Facebook and Goodreads that I think really kept me in that #1 slot of the category that I was in for quite a while. And I think in large part it was due to the buys that you did. So I would tell people, and I do tell people, I do think it's worth it. Dive in and talk to Anne-Marie, and I think that they're going to want to work with you on that.
Yeah, it's an expensive commitment. It's an investment. But you have to go in with a mindset too of understanding the value of it. And the value of it is not necessarily in direct sales.
Yes.
So I always caution clients, if you're looking for direct sales, think about something else. Think about advertising. Necessarily think about PR, because that being a part of, say, a roundup in a .com, that doesn't mean that 20 books are going to fly off the shelves. That's not the way it works. But you take that, being a part of a great roundup and a great .com that you love, that's hitting your target market, and you use it to your advantage, whether you're amplifying it on social media, whether you're updating your press materials and hitting another target media again and saying, hey, look at me. But don't always equate PR with sales.
Yes, I think it's exposure is the goal. And I used to think it was sales, because with my real estate background, it was so sales heavy, and you could track where your marketing dollars were ending up, because you could ask people, where did you find me? And I had to learn different lingo, because I was thinking dollar for dollar value in sales, and that's where my mindset was. But I've had to learn about exposure. But in real estate, we would say too that you have to hit somebody 5 times, 5 different times sometimes, before it sinks in what your product is. And a book is a product, and an author is a product. So what I love about PR is it gives you all those hits. So if somebody is seeing your book in one place and then it pops up on another place, you're starting to build that image in their head of, hey, this book is worth reading because look at these different outlets who are saying it's worth looking at. But that's happening because of PR. That doesn't just happen organically unless you're really, really good at forming a whole lot of different connections on your own, which I don't know anybody who is. We should be just writing. Anne-Marie, do you have?
You're good at it, though. You're good at it.
Thank you. I'm learning. I try to observe people who I think are doing it well and learn what they're doing and try to do it myself. But yeah, it's quite a balancing act. I probably spend more time on that than the writing, which is not what it should be. But
well, the thing about you is that you write a lot faster than a lot of other writers.
I guess so. Yes, I've got about one year out. So yes. Now, do you have a favorite brag moment, or a moment when you felt like you just hit it out of the ballpark with PR?
I wish I could say every campaign was a hit it out of the ballpark, but I have a couple of brag moments. There was so years ago when I first started out, I used to do a lot of freelance work when I went out on my own. I worked for about 5 different PR firms at any given time, and I am one of those people who I like adrenaline, and I like to be thrown into something new, like just thrown into the fire and see how I can sort of manage to make my way out of it. And so freelance work was a lot of fun for me. So I was tasked with a relatively new company that was bringing the first reusable bag to the market. Now, everybody carted around totes in Manhattan. That was nothing new, but no one had coined the term reusable bag. And so one woman had, and she had sold her bag to every organic and green market throughout New York City, and the Union Square farmers markets. And now she wanted to up her game. And so she came to this PR firm I was freelancing for and said, I want to be on Oprah. The best was that she had not actually ever seen Oprah. Her sister, who was in marketing, said, you know, it would be really great if you could be on Oprah. That Oprah effect was already known. So I thought this was kind of like an impossible thing, but we managed, the producers were interested in the bag because they were having Oprah's first Earth Day special. So the bag was given away to everybody in the audience, and the client's website crashed. Her sales skyrocketed. It was such a beautiful moment. And, you know, I just went on about my work because I was a freelancer and we did a great thing, but, you know, that was it. It wasn't my victory necessarily. But we stayed in touch all these years. And when I was firmly on my own and not freelancing, we worked together. And then about 2 years ago, she released her first book. So as a business owner, 30 years later, she released her first book, and she put my name in the book and credits me with that Oprah effect.
Oh.
And yeah, it meant the world to me. And to this day, I look at her as a mentor in small business, in the world of small business and women-owned businesses. She is one of my mentors. Her name is Sharon Rowe, and she runs EcoBags products.
I have some eco bags, but I haven't read her book, so I will definitely check this. See, you sold a book, and it can be about.
I'll drop a copy in the mail for you. I have some extra.
So who are the Oprahs of today? Now that she doesn't have her show, who are the people? I know my secret people that I would love to be on their radar, but who are you hearing from with your authors that would be their dream?
It's Reese, it's Jenna, it's oh my God, a Bellatrist, her name Emma Roberts. That I would say and the Skim. Those are probably the biggest wants right now.
Those are the biggies. It was always my dream, since I knew I wanted to be a writer at age 12, to be in People magazine. So
I love print. I love People. I read it religiously. I love People magazine.
I bought a lot of books off of their recommendations.
So have I.
Yes. Now we're speaking here in June 2020. I can put this up on my YouTube channel so people can watch it from the future that is very unknown at the moment. But coming back to 2020, we've had such interesting few months here. How has that changed either your strategy or your approach? What has that meant to you?
Everything's changed. Everything's changed. Everything I do during the day has changed. But the one difference is that I have to look at every single account I have and sort of, and rethink their messaging in light of what's happening at the moment. I mean, it's been, at first it was the pandemic and understanding what people needed and what they were craving and what helped them feel better at that moment. But adjusting your messaging to not be overly promotional in social media. Even times when I'm actually pitching the media, I have to stand down now. I can't talk about this. I can't send out pitches about this today. But also how to deal with these events that were planned for clients. What are we going to do now? We can't congregate at the bookstore. And so I found that some of my mornings were educating my 5 and 8 year old, and then my afternoons were dealing with how to help clients, some of them aged, some of them on their second, third, fourth careers, with navigating their book launches during a pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was, everything's a learning moment to me. But it's also been a very exhausting period of time. And then you have, and then you have, the recent murders of George Floyd and Breonna, and you just, it's different. It's not about what people are craving, but it is about need. And it's also about educating, but I have to stop and sit and listen a lot first. And then I have to sort of adjust for every client, because every client has sort of a different public persona. And while we all have a commitment to do better and be better, what is their commitment as a public figure? Mm-hmm. So every day it's been something a little bit different in the last 3 weeks. We've had a few crisis moments, but we have moments coming this week that I think are really hopeful. There's going to be a good op-ed happening with one of my clients in the Washington Post. There is, changes on the horizon, good change.
Well, you are very good with working with change. So like I said, 4 books in together, I think that you navigate that really well. And we haven't worked on a strategy. I'm not in your client base working on that strategy particularly right now. But for anybody watching who's thinking of hiring a publicist or hiring Anne-Marie specifically, I can really vouch for the fact that whether it's small events that need to be changed or big world events that need to be changed, you really that. One thing you really shifted gears on is that my 5th book, The First Emma, came out during the pandemic, May 5th, and you had wonderfully scheduled a great book signing and launch party in New York City for me. We were just starting to talk about what the menu of that was going to be. But you very quickly pivoted and embraced all that Zoom was doing, and you helped me understand that as a medium, which I'd never been on before. You have no idea how intimidated I was. I don't think I showed it, but I was super intimidated before getting on.
You are so cool, Camille. You are so
I was just about sick all day leading up to that because I was so nervous. But you really walked me through it so well. And then we had well over 100 people on this Zoom call talking about
that was a good Zoom. Yeah.
It was great. And that's on the YouTube channel if anybody wants to see what that looked like. But you just pivoted me right away. And that was for something small. So I know that you're capable of doing that on the really big things too. So anybody thinking of hiring you, like I said, I'm just going to vouch for saying that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really, really good hands. And you have a lot of repeat clients. I know a lot of them. And so you're going to stay busy for a while because we all just sing your praises. Let's see, I have little notes here. Where can people find you if they want to talk to you about potentially considering this as an option for their book?
They can just go to my website. It's Get Red PR, and that's RED, because it's based on the old newspaper joke. So what's black and white and red all over?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So my mother said that I was reading. I've also been an early reader. I started reading at 3, but she said she'd have to hide the newspapers from me. I would read them and then I would get upset because I was little and didn't really understand. Yeah. But I learned that joke, and then it's always been in my head. And then at my first summer camp, I started a camp gossip rag. I would handwrite with my best friend Yuki So, on the fish market down the street from my grandmother in Brooklyn, and we would handwrite it in my grandmother's hallway and hand it out at camp. So I was sort of destined to do this. But, so yes, my website is Get Red PR. That's RED, and you can email me through there. And I have a lot of great partners in my work because I believe in partnership and I believe in supporting other women-owned businesses. So we retool for any sort of account that we have. We take a close look. and I am always bringing in new PR people and thinking about how to grow my business and be able to provide more offerings for the clients who are coming to me.
And I can attest to that, that over the years I've seen that you'll see that there's somebody else really hitting it out of the ballpark on one particular path, and you just outsource to them. So,
Yeah.
if it's in your hands, I trust that you're watching out for who is really dominating their little category, and that's who you use. And I know for sure that it was a really, really big help on the first Emma for me. So
Yeah.
I've watched you in action on that front. Anne-Marie, is there anything you'd like our viewers to know that I didn't think to ask?
No, and if I'm pretty open. If people have questions, if you're interested in PR, but you really are not sure if it's right for you, just send me an email, and I'm always happy to just arrange for a call and sort of talk you through the various steps.
That sounds great. I'm sure you can easily provide referrals, and anybody who wants to come to me, I'll say nothing but great things.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for doing this. You totally have gotten me out of my comfort zone. I'm really in this sort of boring closet looking dwelling my 10 hours a day. But part of my pandemic home improvement project is to put up artwork. But right now I just have my kids' hands right there.
Well, that's kind of artwork. And believe me, this is really forcing me out of my shell too. This is a new medium for me, but the thing that drove this is I have always felt somewhat guilty that it's the author's name on the front of a book, when I'm well aware of how many hands have to do with that. And thankfully we get our acknowledgements, and that's wonderful, but there are great people who I feel have done as much work and deserve their name right on the cover. And so you are one of them, and I thought I want to spread the love a little bit. And also, just as a reader, I didn't understand the complexities that go into publishing, and I thought maybe readers will like to hear all the different details because they're so used to seeing the authors. So
yeah,
so thanks for being a part of that and explaining publicity to us. And then for y'all watching, if you would like to continue to watch interviews like this, then go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will keep putting them out there as long as people are willing to keep talking to me. But like I said, it's new.
She's a great interviewer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Take care, y'all.
All right. Bye. Take care.